Good afternoon, one and all. I've really been carried away by Mr. Pandirajan's talk. I was sitting there and I was listening to the whole thing. I don't know whether I can match his talks. And it was inspiring for me as well. I come from a totally different industry to education, okay? And which is films. Probably I'm the only one who's from films into education. There could be somebody who was coming in from education into films, but I'm the only person who's gone in from films to education. The whole thing was a default, I would say. Way back in I think it about 80s, early 80s, a school was founded in the name of AVM Rajeshwari. And I was asked to, my sister founded it and then she got married and she left for Australia. So I was asked to take over and run the school. And my father gave me full liberty in doing it. I went there. All I realized was it had 7 classrooms and a 24 lakh liability. We had borrowed from the banks. So how do I do and what do I do as a question mark? On my right side was Avichi High School, which was run by the family. My father was a correspondent, and to the left was AVM School, and we were right in the middle. And it was literally impossible for us to take it forward and to build up anything was in my mind. Then I thought I have to be different. I cannot do what the other 2 schools are doing. One was catering to the lower segment of people, the other to the upper middle income. So I decided, let me go 1 class above. And I decided on a concept. We will not have too many students in a class, just 20 in a class, and then we will have this as our fee, and let's bring in quality education. So I started with that. 7 years henceforth, we were one of the top schools in Chennai. I built up one room a year, and I completed the entire school. Then I had money enough after 3 years to build 3 rooms, 6 rooms, whatever it is, and the whole thing was built up. And I was quite contented with it, and I was continuing with my work. Coming to my career in cinema, since the topic today was from cinema to the campus, I did start off with the campus, but how I went back to the campus is another story. I started with a school, today I'm going to college. Way back, now I used to tell my people, from work I used to go to school, but now from home I go to a college. So after all these years, I go back to the psychologist like quite a few of you are doing. But of course, reasons are different. I sit in the management, the students are there with us. See, as I started my career, it was my first year in college, I started work. I don't know how many of you would start work in the first year of college. See, Vivekananda function from 8 in the morning till 1:30 in the afternoon. After lunch, I would go home for lunch because college was not far from home. And from there, I would reach my workplace. I got into this aspect of, I was invited as the showreel stated that I was invited by this American company. They had asked our family to send two other people along with somebody from Chennai, and I was the one who was shortlisted, and I went there. See, literally these were servicing of machines, okay, which did multiplication of cassettes. And I was completely new to this aspect of it, so I had to go into it. They'll strip a machine apart and ask us to put it together. And the colleague of mine who had come, he was not too keen on it. I was quite... See, I came from a commerce background, but I wanted to do something completely different, and I got into technologies. Little did I know the next few years of my travel was going to be in the field of music, sound, or whatever it is. So this happened, and as the process of it, and I got back to Chennai, we started the cassette unit. A small amount of 20,000 was allotted for this by the company, and I did 10 recordings. Okay, and those 10 recordings were marketed, and that was taken care of the 20,000 rupees, and it was all sold. We had the best of repertoire, everything was sold. So we had that month taking care of, the profits coming in the next month itself. So that kept growing very fast. Next 2-3 years was no looking back till excise came in for the industry. What was the problem with that particular business was, when you have a successful product, Ritchie Street, then our competitor, used to pirate it. And whichever failures were lying with us, for 3 years we tried it, and then there was a downfall. I thought, okay, let me see what is to be done. At that point of time, my father and his brothers got into film production. So as you said, Punami Naga was one of my first films where I got involved in it, because director Rajshekar then, and Ram Narayan was a writer. Both of them came in together, and they did this script for us, and then we got into production. I used to sit with my father, and whenever we have breaks, you know, they had done a film called Paurnami Nilaval. It was a very flimsy film, so how father corrected the script, I sat with him, I used to watch him. Even as a child, I used to go and sit and watch story discussions and all that, song recording, song composing. I grew up in the compound where everything was happening, so I was literally walking around with my father wherever he went, and my father's a technician. One was a businessman, business orientation. The other son was a technician. My father was deputed for technology. So he took care of all that. So I had opportunities of meeting a lot of music people, script writers, directors, and I went on those lines. Coming to the whole thing, I one film, next film, third film, and by the time the record industry got in, there was a partition in the family. We decided to do our own films. That's when I did those films. We did very well in films. We made good money in those films. The problem was, one film flopped. Okay. I was 22, 23 years old. The second film also flopped. You know, I didn't realize in life there is both. When you make a profit, there is a loss as well. There are two sides of the coin. At that age, you know, the aspect of accepting a profit, a positive thing was not the same with the negative. Little did I realize later on, yes, both of them are the same side of the coin, and it went on. That is when I read my grandfather's book, Yanadu Vazhkai Anubhavangal. He wrote 26 episodes of his life. And that's when I realized in that he did see a lot of profits, a lot of struggles, a lot of every aspect of life before he came up. See, basically I want to tell you all one thing. Have a mentor. Read a book or something. I read his book. To me, he was a role model. Get yourself a role model. See, when you have a role model in yourself, you cannot become the role model, but you will definitely be a duplicate of it. And follow the policies of this role model. So after the 7 films, you know, my mind was down. So my father said, we have the studios. After partition, we had Rajeshwari Theatre, we had another theatre. So I walked into one of those theatres. The problem was, my cousin was earlier running it. And what he had done is, it was a dubbing theatre. And in the dubbing theatre, he had equipments of both the traditional dub, which is called a loop dubbing. Film is made into a loop. And people used to, cut the film after it's edited. They made it into loop. Like if I have to say a dialogue, the dialogue will run a loop. I have to do it, they'll record it. So that is the older system that was followed. The time I was entering into it, there's something called the rock and roll projector. The projector goes up and down. But then what they had done is they had bought a wrong projector. And both were in the same theatre. So there wasn't the optimum amount of business. By then, there was another hall where I did my duplication and all that, which was literally wound up. And that hall was lying idle. So I decided to shift one of the rock and roll business into that theatre, and we called it AVM Garden Studio. And the original theatre was called AVMG. It was always called AVMG. See, my passion, like where it started off, it was nothing but one step ahead of the other. And the other occupation I had was looking after AVM Rajeshwari. All three had a story each. Once AVM Garden Studio clicked, okay, it did well. We had the best of directors who came in. It started off with Shankar, who came up with that Sharat Kumar film. I don't remember which one. He started with that film, and then the next, and then the next. As Shankar came in, Mani Ratnam came in. All the top directors. Then came in, whoever is it, every other director was doing, including Bharati Raja. They all came in to do that. We were doing 2 shifts over there, 3 shifts sometimes, day and night. We had to change the projector. The minute we changed the projector, it was a very cozy place to be. When all heroes came in, they sat down, whether it's Kamal Haasan or whether it was Surya. They used to walk in, Vijay, all of them used to come in and they used to do the dubbing over there. Any time in the morning, like some of them, Asin used to come at 4 in the morning and work. And she used to have a tutor coming and teaching her. So that was what it was we were doing full. Coming to the other theatre, G Theatre, that had a very passionate travel towards me. I had a very nice travel on that theatre in my sound areas. So what was nice about it, when we started the theatre, we had to knock down the whole thing because it was not rightly sized. The height was not there. So we literally had to open up the ceiling. The truss was like that. So we had to cut open the truss and make it up so we get more height, and sound is also. So I learned a lot on sound, soundproofing, like reflection. See, like a dead hall like this, a last person can hear. So I learned a lot of it. How do you stop reflections, whatever it is. Rajeshwari Theatre, of course, my grandfather had built the theatre. in such a manner. It was designed on the lines of Midland Theatre. I don't know how many of you know Midland Theatres. It doesn't, of course, the next generation does not know it. It was a very rightly proportioned theatre, 1:2. Like, if the length is one, the breadth should be twice the amount. So, the sound is carried right over the theatres. So he wanted Rajeshwari to be similar to that, and he had done the acoustics and all that. So that was good for us. Now, how do I do this? So the whole thing started off all over again as an exercise, and then we had to buy a mixer. Neighboring, at that point of time, Ilayaraja was number one, and he was recording in Prasad. And AVM RR Theatre, which was inside the studio, which was with my cousin, had one Mr. Sampath, and the next preferred theatre was the other theatre. So where do I go for business? It's an optimum level, and then how do I share it? So I had a strategy. Let's start somewhere, and then we started. We first built up the theatre. Then we just thought of it. Why don't we get the local Tamil people? Sirpi was just coming up. Bharatwaj is coming up. So we got them in, but that was not enough for my paybacks. Coming to a mixer, those days US dollar was very highly priced. I mean, not compared to today, but then it was highly priced. So we had to pick up a British mixer because the rates were quite low. The exchange rates were low. We had a mixer, then when the mixer arrived, it was better than the American mixers. So we started off one against the other, sitting on the hall, started doing it, not able to pay back the banks. At that point of time, we were doing a lot of Telugu movies. So we had a very good relationship with the Telugu industry. And I met up a friend of mine, we discussed together. I'm not able to do it. He said, why don't we meet Chakravarti? Chakravarti then was like Ilayaraja, flying high. Super high he was flying. Every film in Telugu industry was done by Chakravarti. So we went and met him. As soon as we went and told him, we want you to come to our theatre. He just said, today is a good day. Ippe Polama. I was wondering, we had scaffolding, nothing was ready. The theatre is getting completed. No, I want to come today. So when somebody insists on something, what do I do? So I said, okay, let's go. And I brought him out to the studio. He was in Vijay Garden. Coming from Vijay Garden to our studio was not difficult. We drove him to the studio. We parked the car. We walked in. And we led him. As we were leading, there was a big noise. And the scaffoldings went down. And I looked behind, he was right there inside the trench. See, we dig trenches for cables to run in a studio. So he was inside, one leg was inside the trench, the other leg was outside. I thought, oh God, my luck is not so great. What do I do now? So we lifted him out, and then we took him out. As we took him out, he said, I'm coming into this theatre, and the next day you please finish it at the earliest. Whatever expansion we did. I was in a stage of shock. Because after an accident, how did he even decide to come? We'll think twice. Oh, there was the first thing was not great, so it won't. No. I had bruises and we had a lot of bleeding. It's going to bring me luck over here. He moved in. We had so much of problem because he moved in, because he came in with a huge big unit, nothing like the Tamil units. The musicians, each one of them had a car. We didn't have place enough to get car park. So we literally had to open up Rajeshwari's, car park, a portion of it for them to park the cars. About 100 cars coming in for the musicians, 100 musicians sitting over there. And it went on very well. I paid up all my thing. But I did have problems from the Telugu industry for taking the Telugu man away to our theatre. How can you do it? I said, he's a friend of mine. You didn't do a development, so he came to us. And that's how the whole thing happened. So it went on with, after Chakravarti, all these things kept happening. On the other side was Rajeshwari. Kamal Haasan had then produced a film called Kurdi Punal. I don't know how many of you have seen it over here. Anybody know about it? Yeah, beautiful. This film was the first film to be done in surround sound, Dolby. So he called me over to say that, see, I've done this film in Dolby. I want you to, can you do your theatre? Because you need theatres to screen the film. See, the old analog systems did not have, every theatre had this old analog systems. How do we do it? So I said, I don't mind doing it. Let's try it. See, I was always ahead of technology. So let's do something, is something I told him. And then I called up, there's a company called RNS Electronics who are agents of Dolby. So they came here. We started doing the entire process. Believe it, I learned so much from them on sound that till today I cherish the fact that I was in sound, where my career started in sound, moved on till that particular area of sound. And then we started doing the surround sound. We decided, why don't we do the facility of doing surround sound in my other theatre, G Theatre. So we called them over. Then we decided to do the whole process again. We then, wanted to buy. We see the mixer which is outside the theater has to come inside the theater now. So we had to literally make the theater into a surround mixing area as well as do the re-recordings. It became a multi-purpose theater. So then how did we do it? At that point of time, the pound has gone up. Earlier the dollar was up, now the pound is up. We couldn't afford a British mixer. It's not afford in the sense it's so expensive, that we may not have the payback for it. So we decided we would go ahead with a mixer from Netherlands. Because then the euros had just, the confusion of the euros, they were very low price. So we could pick up a mixer coming in from Netherlands. We bought a mixer from there. It arrived, but it was equal in match, and it was huge, probably the size of this table, and it was amazing. But it's all analog period. Okay, so we did the entire process of aligning it, and the technology process kept going so much that we literally had to run behind, and by the time we did everything, digital came in. That was like, the worst thing that happened to us was digital. Anybody having a small room could start recording. It was the next most thing after a barber shop. You trip and fall, there's a studio in Kodambakkam, and then we had invested so much of money, and we also had to go digital. And a small computer could do what these big machines were doing. We did have to face the war, but just then it was happening, we went digital. Telugu industry migrated to Andhra. They were my bread and butter for the theatre. I had invested a lot. That shock when, the entire the hall is empty, nothing is happening. To my luck, Harris Jayaraj came with Midale. The entire Harris Jayaraj tracks were done with us. Till it's just destiny. It is not hard work or anything. It's just destiny. He had to come. Till Harris Jayaraj was flying high, all his films were done with us. It was only after he started his studios he moved out. Well, the business itself changed, and the theatre business also changed. It was flying very high. We did very well. I should talk to something very interesting about theatres. We had a film called Braveheart. See, that film released earlier at Devi, and it didn't do well. I work very closely with, the theatre works very closely with 20th Century Fox, Sony Pictures, and all the foreign companies. So in between Tamil films, we used to screen English films. Mr. Ranganathan of 20th Century Fox was a personal friend of mine. Very, very warm person. Anything he'll call up, he'll come, he'll see me, and then he'll say, "Sir, why didn't you do it?" He asked me to screen the Star Wars 7 trilogy. There were 7 pictures of it. And he wanted to screen it. I said, "Sir, it won't go. Sir, I will give you something in turn." I didn't know what was that barter deal about. So I gave him that film. 7 weeks, the theatre was empty. I lost heavily. The running cost, everything, the air conditioning, right? He said, "Don't use air conditioning." But even then, there's something called a running cost for the theatre. So everything was lost. At that point of time, what I decided to do was, what else will you give me? And then he said, "I want you to play Braveheart." This was in the month of March, February, March. I said, "Sir, Braveheart, you already played at Devi. Why do you want to give it to me after you played at Devi?" "Illa, neenga play pannunga. Enakku or 2 weeks enna play pannunga." The first week we played that film, it won all the Oscars that year. Believe me, right from Mr. N. Ram drove through the Kodambakkam traffic to come and see this film in our theatre. We used to receive complaints from them saying the air conditioner is too cold. That was a problem we had, because we had just turned the air conditioner, it runs. Unlike any other theatre where they turn it off. I had it in my costing, so I couldn't be bothered about it. I'm a commerce person, so I do all that. Okay. So Braveheart ran well. Once again, the same year, end of the year, around September, Diwali time, October is Diwali, right? Sometime then, he called me up, "Sir, I want a screening in your theatre for one of our films which is coming up." I didn't know which film. He said he has called entire South exhibitors. So we came, we saw the film. It was Titanic. Okay. I didn't produce it. The claps go to James Cameron. Okay. Okay. Now, I watched this film and he said, "Sir, I don't have a place to keep the print, you can retain it." somewhere down the line, we meet people across the industry. I was talking to Kamal Haasan. I told him that I'd seen this film. He said, I want to see it. Then I spoke to Mr. Rangana. He spoke to Bombay. He got permission. So we had a morning show. Just Kamal Haasan, me and Crazy Mohan. He had, of course, though he was not, this is genre, three of us saw the film again. As the end title went up, he stood up in attention and he was watching. The grandeur of it and everything. That film released on March 8th. I remember distinctly, I told him, why are you releasing this film during exam time? He said, no, because exams, nobody comes. He said, no, sir, till April it will go well. After April, it will be a big, big hit. It ran in a theatre for 9 months. And we had an award which was initiated to us for the biggest run ever of Titanic in Southeast Asia. So the Hong Kong team came here, and thanks to Cameron, we had the film. Industry was doing very well. Everything was doing perfect. Then the government, I think with the DMK government then, had given tax-free for films with Tamil names. Okay, Maina released. It was a super-duper hit. People went in. It was tax-free. So people in the industry benefited. Okay, the industry was thriving. Then came their government, Sir's government. It was continued. The tax-free was continued. It was still thriving. The problem that started happening was like termite was big film heroes got avaricious. Because they were tax-free, they started raising their remuneration. The directors came in. The marriage between the director and the artist started happening. Greed went one to another. Competition between one another. I raise my tariff, you raise your tariff. Constantly raising, where we lost our producers. Traders moved in, producers moved out. We lost everyone. This is the growth of cinema as well as the fall of cinema started happening. People could not pay exorbitant prices. Not only did that happen, the number of films declined. It couldn't survive. And that was, the next move was GST. When GST came in, it became worse. We are charged 18% GST. Am I right, sir, if you remember right? 18%. And I think your ministry had just ended and then DMK came in. I went and I had several rounds of talk. I was in Film Chamber in charge of, as a vice president for exhibitors. We met the ministers, we spoke to them. Nothing could be done for a long time till it was dropped down. But by the time it was dropped down, the industry had already perished, I would say. That is, we didn't want to be there in a situation where, see, one thing grandfather taught us was, when there is a storm outside, don't step out. It's a dangerous industry. So in any industry, this is what I would say. Do not step out when there are heydays. Every industry has got a birth and a death. Okay? Everything goes up, comes down. So is cinema. So the peak of it is what my grandfather had seen an era, my father-in-law had seen an era. I had seen a different era, but today that era does not exist. Of course, it's carrying on in a different format, but not as a business, though. Well, when I was talking about a school that I started, right through it, I was there in the school education areas, running the school, looking after it and all that. And then at one point of time, that entire compound was given to me. Father gave the entire compound to me. It's on Arcot Road, on the right side of the road, past the studios. It's where a school was functioning called Avichi. Avichi was a school started by my grandfather in the year 1963. My grandfather was not educated, but he was self-educated. He used to read the Hindu's editorial every day and learn English. He learned commerce. He learned every aspect of it reading or meeting people and learning every aspect of it. Any student he meets, the first thing he will ask is, what are you going to study? What do you want to become? And when I got this compound, somewhere deep within me was, we are running two schools. We've got Avichi, we've got AVM Rajeshwari, and then of course my cousins have got AVM. One more school, it will be a CBSE, one more. I was wondering then, what are we going to do over there? All in the same compound, one on one side of the road, another. Why don't we start a college? That is your government, sir. I approached ma'am. We tried for a while. We did have some problems, but ultimately, Mr. K.P. Anbalagan was then the minister. I got my license through. It took me about 4 years though. I got it. I started the college in 2018, and now it's grown into a college. Today we have got about 9 departments. Being a commerce person, I'm very passionate about two or three departments I'm very passionate about. One is the computer science, where we put a lot of time because technology is involved. Commerce is another area of my interest, very, very keen on commerce. The other area of mine is Viscom because I come from a film background. I'm very passionate about education of late. I get a lot into it. I think differently out of the box, unlike any other educationalist, because I do not come from an educational, somebody who grew up in education. And to me, putting back to education, every pie that comes in goes back into the premises. Because we have other businesses where we make our money, our investments are there, which takes care of us. My aspect is how do we do it, how do you do it? Yes, coming to my favorite departments are commerce, as I said, and in commerce, accounts and finance, we are very bullish on our kids doing CMA, sir. We have with us students who have cleared it and working in multinational companies. You would have seen them, yes. This is only a beginning. We're not a very old college. But yes, we are very keen on this. We want to support and we want your support on this. And yes, since I know you well, I'm expecting it from your team completely. We would like to work closer. We would like to support the industry. Believe me, all of you, okay, the kids of the next generation. We are living in a city which has got heavy vibes, as Mr. Pandirajan has stated. We are very bullish. A point of time where Tamil Nadu is very, very bullish. Whoever the government may be or whatever may happen, but the momentum has gained, okay? It cannot stop. Companies will come into Chennai. There's going to be a lot of requirements. See, it's just not here. You will be the backbone of the companies, because without you, the numbers will not work. American companies will